Hello, how are you? Welcome back to Diary of an Ex-Teacher. I've literally just come in from a training course. I've got 2 more days tomorrow and I've been there today and yesterday. So I haven't actually even really planned what I'm going to say for this episode on CPD. I'm just going to see what comes out. So please bear with me, but I do hope that there's some use in there for you. But really, I think I just wanted to talk about what I've been learning in this course, but also thinking about CPD, continuing professional development in your own context. Sometimes that is like forced upon us, and other times we get to choose. So I think, that's just the topic I want to talk around. So hopefully you'll learn a bit about the topic of the training, and then you can, if it's interesting to you, you can research it a bit more, or I can point you in the direction of resources and stuff, but also maybe just some thinking points about CPD and what that looks like for you, if you have CPD at all, and if you don't, why not, would you like some, that kind of thing. So continuing professional development. If you work in education, this is very often something that you have to do once a week. Maybe if you're in the UAE, probably schools in other countries as well, like within the UK and America, different places, you have PD. And often PD can be designed around the school's values, the school's vision, mission, where it's going, things like that. I don't think I'd be alone in saying that sometimes you sit through a CPD session at the end of a long school day and you think, right, this is just another thing that I have to find a way to fit into an already cluttered curriculum or an already packed day. You might think, B, this is really relevant to me, I can't wait to try and use this initiative, or I can't wait to get started. Or C, it could be, this could have been an email, or sometimes it maybe sounds like a great idea and the theory behind it, but you might have some opinions around practicality with implementation and things like that. I've talked about the character strengths before in many other episodes. If you just need a little reminder, it's the character strengths, or the categorization of everything that's right with us as humans, basically, and it's kind of at the heart of positive psychology. I love to use character strengths in every context where I am, whether with children or adults, and I think I've mentioned before, my top character strength is love of learning. So for me, CPD is something that I totally enjoy, and I kind of geek out over certain things, and there's other things that I'll research myself. But because love of learning is my top strength, it doesn't mean that everything that's put in front of me is useful for me, the classroom I'm in, the children I'm working with, that kind of thing. What I've really enjoyed about now being an ex-teacher out of school for 2 years, and because of the place that I'm working now is a very pro-social company, really want their staff to flourish. They really care about development of the whole person, and part of that also is professional development. And I'm really lucky that the Free Spirit Collective, where I currently work, alongside another really lovely clinic here in Dubai called Vivimus, partnered together, and they bring over people to do training sessions in the UAE. So CPD for me the last 2 years has been really gorgeous because it's directly impacted the way that I run sessions, coaching sessions, my understanding of the person in front of me, my understanding of myself within the session, and it's been so valuable, and the 2 trainers have just been fantastic. So the training that I did last year and that I've just kind of finished, did the foundation course today, is called ACT training, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what it actually is, but I want to mention the two people and how they've talked about it. So acceptance commitment therapy, acceptance can mean so many things to a person. But I think when you think about acceptance in your life, accepting the feelings that are there, accepting situations that are there, and thinking about what's helpful about it, what's unhelpful about it, and moving towards a different outcome. So again, there's a lot of values work in there. So you think about what it is that you value and how can we get closer to that. So the ACT therapy with Dr. Robin Walser, who came over from America, was just so outstanding to see her do like role play sessions of therapy. So everyone in the room was like clinician or coach or educator, and a lot of psychologists and things. So many of the role play sessions were around like based on what clients might bring to a therapy session, for example. But the processes can be adapted to your context. So for me, the 6 processes, I would think about them within education or within coaching. And it was just a real privilege to be able to see how Dr. Robin Walser worked with the processes, but also bringing the acceptance and commitment therapy theory into life within the session. So I would definitely suggest looking up some of Dr. Robin's books. I don't have any here, I'm just looking on the bookshelf. I think it's called The Heart of ACT. Yep, that's the main kind of text book around it, and it's fascinating, so I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, the training that I've been doing today is also within ACT therapy, but the model that Dr. Louise Hayes has created with some colleagues is around using ACT therapy or ACT with young people. So again, really lucky that my work encourages us to take part in CPD. We have CPD budgets, which I know in a lot of schools is really hard to get. It's really hard to choose training that you want to do. And if you're a school counsellor or things, you might get opportunities to do that. Lots of schools do have CPD budgets. So then it can be down to you to find the CPD that you find really relevant or interesting and exciting for you. But then sometimes the catch is then you've got to present that to the rest of the staff, which some people are uncomfortable to do, you know. But today the DNAV model is the focus of the training. So again, I just ordered one of the books that Dr. Louise suggested, but there's 4 books that she's written all around the model, and it tends to be working with adolescents. And obviously I was there in a coaching capacity. I do have some sessions with adolescents, but mostly primary age children is who I work with. But the model was so lovely, and I want to just share a little bit about it, especially if you're working with young people or you have your own children, because a lot of people in the room were parents, and it was just really nice to see how this PD or this training can impact you in your life and with the people around you and help everyone in the situation. Obviously then if you're working within a professional capacity, it looks a bit different, but I just find training that really makes you reflect about your own self as well as how you can develop professionally, so personally and professionally, is really lovely. So the DNAV model talks about different parts of ourselves and leaning into different parts. And the way that Dr. Louise described it was, imagine that each part of the model is a chair leg. Which one are you leaning on more, or is there a balance of all of them that makes it comfortable? So D is for the discoverer, and there was some really nice videos about, you know, when you see a little baby and how they discover the things around them, and they discover how they can be safe in certain situations, they're seeking out certain things, discovering new things. And a really interesting point was the 2 main stages of life where you're in the discovery phase and taking risks maybe. Is it toddler age and adolescence around 13, 14, because that's how you're finding out things about yourself and finding out things about the world. So discoverer. N is for noticer, so what do you notice? So it was really lovely to see some role play and examples around like patterns showing up. So of course within a therapy session or even within education, you know, you're not telling the client or telling the child, it's helping them notice things around them that can support the learning. So for example, questioning around stress that's showing up and talking about what do you notice in yourself. So I always think about when I talk about little emotions to little kids, and it's one thing being able to label them like emotional literacy, but again another level of that is where does that show up for you in your body? So what does happy feel like? And I'd really love to hear really young children use the language of the level of language that they're at to try and articulate what it feels like. So they might use things like, you know, happiness feels like sun is in here and it's shining everywhere, or grumpy might feel like, you know, there's books on my head pushing me down. That's the way one child described it. And it's using the language that they've developed to that point to let them describe it. Obviously when they get a bit older they can articulate it a bit more, like my heart beats faster if I'm feeling stressed, my heart beats fast, my breathing's more shallow, things like that. So what do you notice? So you can look at that in the capacity, what do you notice in the patterns, hopefully bringing them to a place where they notice that maybe something isn't working for them so well, or something might be good for them. So helpful and unhelpful is always words that I kind of tend to use. So that was a really nice part of it, or one of the chair legs. DNA was, we spent a lot of time talking about the advisor, and I found this particularly useful because the advisor is that voice, the inner voice, and something that I've probably done before with young children especially is say, like, you know, that voice that tells you what to do, or that voice that's quite unhelpful. And then I've said, so what would the helpful voice say? And I think I've maybe at times split that as if there's a few voices in there. And I think movies like Inside Out, you know, really give children a visual of like, so now I've got some kids that'll talk about their anxiety. So it's like their face, but with the hair of the character from Inside Out too. So they can change it like that. But I think something that I found today really important was there is just one inner voice. It's yourself, it's one inner voice, but almost that voice is in an advisory capacity where it's giving you advice, and it's always trying to keep you safe, it's always trying to be there, and it's in your corner and it's in your side, and you don't always have to listen to it. So if you think about you know, if, for example, oh gosh, there's a million examples today and now my mind's went blank. I think there's so much to process. I've literally just came home and turned the camera on. But if you think about the advisor in the sense of it tells you, well actually it's one of those voices, the advisor might say things like, you don't belong here, or you're not good enough to do this. And it's trying to keep you safe, but you know, saving you from maybe embarrassment or awkwardness or things. But actually in certain situations that's not the right advice. So if you're in a room full of people, you haven't met anybody before, and your advisor is saying, no, just turn around and go home, this is too much, turn around and go home, then you know, you can actually notice that and well, discover something else. Well, what would happen if I did go into the room? I might meet someone new. So you don't always have to take the advice, you can kind of reframe it in a sense and think about which advice is helpful and which is unhelpful. I'm probably not really doing the model much justice, I need to read way more about it, but I was just really excited about it. And then the V is like the values, what matters to you most, what is the most important thing to you in a specific situation. So for example, you know, we've talked a lot about like school refusers, kids that don't want to go to school, and you know, what matters to you most about that. So for example, a child might not want to go to school, and through chat and questioning and things, you find out the value, or what really matters to them is they want to have friends and they don't know how to make friends. So some work around, once you find out what that is, and it's finding out ways to support them in that, not telling, but almost inputting it as well within coaching, like empowering them to find ways around that. That's just a really small example, but I think I'm really looking forward to ordering some of the books from Dr. Louise. I think they're all on Amazon, so I can list them in the show notes. And yeah, just learning a bit more about that. And I think it'll build my confidence also when working with adolescents or older primary children. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that. ACT therapy, the DNAV model, and how useful in general CPD is. So if you are working within a school or whatever industry, think about CPD. Does it show up for you? Do you get CPD? Is it useful? Is it not useful? If it's not, what suggestions or solutions could you find to make it more suitable for you? So for example, if you work in a school or a company and you have a CPD budget, then is there anything within your field that you're particularly interested in that you would like to go and learn a bit more about? Or if you're in work or you're not in work and you want to really start learning more about a specific passion or something you're interested in, the world is your oyster, really, because there is always, I find with the internet and online and TikTok and YouTube and things, there's always so many resources available to us now that weren't always there. So you don't have to wait for a specialist in particular. A lot of people that are maybe in the field that you are interested in have their own socials, might have their own training videos on YouTube, might have their own online courses, or you can get platforms like Udemy, udemy.com, and there's loads and loads of courses on there. Now that's not to say that everything out there is quality, and you know, often in the coaching industry you hear it really often, and how people will maybe flippantly do like a 24-hour course, or you know, be a coach within 24 hours or something. And does it really qualify you to, well, it will qualify you in specific things, but is it accredited? There are then certain people that you're not qualified to work with, perhaps those that need clinical requirements, things like that. So of course you have to use discernment in what you're looking for. But I guess this is my love of learning talking, and it's always like you can find something that you just love. And this is something I always come back to adult coaching clients, but also children as well. Like when I ask them, like, what is it you really, really love? Like, what is it you really want to be? And what is it you really care about? And, you know, sometimes it'll be things like flowers, you know, little people that like to take flowers from nature and mash it all up in water and make potions or whatever, you know. So, but then they might have an interest in nature or biology or the scientific things, the worlds around them, experiments. You know, there's a lot of information there. So I think I've said it before, I'm sure. I don't know if I'm constantly repeating myself in these episodes. Please tell me if I am. But it's like, what makes your soul sing, and learn about that. And again, this brings me back to a kind of positive psychology concept of flow, when time just runs away from you and you're so in something and you're enjoying it so much that you're in a state of flow where you don't feel hungry, you forget, or you don't even notice you need to go to the bathroom, or you're like, time just flies by. 3 hours is gone before you realise, and you know, you're really enjoying. So for some people that could be like surfing, you know, could be exercise. It's definitely not mine, but I wish it was. Painting, reading. I definitely lose track of time when I'm reading a really good book. And also courses like today, because I love learning, I just, you know, these 2 days have completely flown by because it's something that I'm really absorbed in and really thoroughly enjoying. So yeah, I would think about that. When was the last time you were in a state of flow? What caused it to be there? How can you have more of that? And there's a lot of writing, I can't remember off the top of my head, like the researchers and stuff, but there's, you know, when you think about a child and maybe they're building something out of Lego and they're so in it, and like you might call their name a few times and they don't turn around because they're so in the process of what they're doing, very present. So yeah, I've just looked at the timer now and that's 20 minutes, so I think I'll kind of stop there. Now, I remember last week I kept saying this is just a short episode, and it was actually long, so now I've got the timer so I can see how long I'm talking for. But again, maybe I'm in a state of flow. But anyway, if you want to learn more about ACT therapy, Dr. Robin Walser's on Instagram, Dr. Louise Hayes is on Instagram. They both have their websites. And if you're in a helping profession, so you don't necessarily need to be working in the therapy space, if you're within education or coaching or anything like that, it's really useful. Like I feel really excited about what I've learned the last 2 days, and I'm also going again for the next 2 days. So yeah, I'll have more to share about that. I haven't got any updates on Golden Visa or business or anything like that. So yeah, I'm filling the recent episodes with things that I've been learning and things that I enjoy. Anyway, enough of me. Have a lovely day. And yeah, think about CPD and what brings you flow.